Oh hey, welcome to another edition of Hand-Laid Tracks and 3D Printed Trays with Socrates. Today we're looking at a 40-foot log carrier. I was working on a pole freight car and I came across a halfway built and I was like, you know what, that looks like a little log carrier. So I made a little small, sort of a pulp wood carrier. It's got some different wood loads with it, 40 foot. So it comes in basically three pieces, the bottom, or four pieces, the bottom, the stakes, and the sides. And I print the bottoms in two colors just using a simple layer shift. Although I did go ahead and play with this a bit, and I did a little Z-hop in the middle there, try to cover up that center beam. Have to do it a little thicker if you want to do it, make it covered up. But I think it's a cute little car. Holds wood. Micro train couplers on the bottoms. Same couplers I use on everything. Little tiny holes, fits the pins, and goes together quite satisfactorily. The poles snap nicely into the body of the thing. I'm starting to use with my slicer. I'm down to like a 0.9 or 90% bottom layer. Originally, the default was like 150% bottom layer, and no wonder you get a thicker elephant foot on the base layer. So I've dropped it down to 90% on the bottom layer. It seems to fit a whole lot better, and I'm including some of the slicer profiles or slicer G codes in there as well if you want to use my slice things. Though, go ahead and put it together. This is basically a set that comes with four parts, two sides of bottom and the poles themselves. I go ahead and first sort of pre-fit the sides into the slots. Sort of start with one edge and sort of push it to the one side and then get the other edge into the other side. And then you can kind of push the whole thing in all the way down. Once you pre-fit them, it sort of opens the slots up just a little bit so they'll fit a little easier. And it's a whole lot better to have them fitted before you put the poles on, because the poles are kind of fragile. Haven't broken one yet, but it's just a matter of time before I end up breaking a pole off. A little bit difficult to get them to first line up. I found to get one edge in there to begin with, and then they sort of click in, and at the very least the way these printed out. And again, I'm using a 90% first layer because the default on Simplicity 3D was about 150, I think, and it just helps to avoid the elephant foot and gives you a little bit better actual dimensions. I'm also printing now a lot of times outside in versus inside out. Up till now I always did the inside of the print first and then the outside, but I'm finding the outside in works a little bit better. Once the one side was in, that second side snaps in really quite pleasingly. I was really happy with the snap, snap, snap thing. It worked out very well. And then at this point I haven't tried to take one of these things out. Again, it's just a matter of putting together the one time. And once the sides have been pre-fitted, they go in pretty easily, snap them in place, and just like that, you've got yourself a nice little pulp log carrier. The only thing it needs to have done is to have the wheels put on it, the couplers. And I made a couple different loads so far. Again, this is a new one, so I haven't really made but so many loads for it. But there's basically a couple partial loads where I move the logs around so they're just sitting down. And they're also trying to make it a little uneven so it looks a little bit more natural as opposed to like very, very flat. The first thing I built was just a big stack, and I just made them all the same size because it was just quick and easy. And that nice big stack is actually very useful for the putting on the couplers because it's taller than the poles. So if you put the big stack in the middle of it, it'll keep the poles off the table when you're mounting the couplers. And to use the couplers, I've basically been, this point I've been using a voltmeter, just the probes off the voltmeter. I was using a pen at one point, and eventually I broke the tip off the pen. So the voltmeters so far has worked pretty well. I haven't broken my voltmeter yet. And I use the tip of the pen to plug the pin on and get that into the coupler. There's basically two size pins that come with a micro trains. These are the micro trains medium shank couplers. And there's small pins and large pins. The larger pin comes on that long spruce, and the smaller ones come on a little ganged up ones. And for a while, I used only the smaller ones, and then they seemed to get a bit loose, and I went and used the bigger ones. You can see that's the full-size log. It gives a nice base to put the coupler, to put the card down so you can push the couplers on. Using the probe from the voltmeter, you can get the little pin on the end of the tip and kind of ease it into the couplers. I found this to be very difficult to do with it any other way. And sort of put the pin on top of the hole and just sort of wiggle push it in, and you can push pretty hard on it because it's depth limited. The depth was very specifically cut And it's funny is the fact that some of these use big pins, and some use smaller pins. It's the exact hole I've used for all the cars I've made. I've just simply cut and pasted that same exact piece that makes the hole. So the holes are always theoretically the same, but use the pin and jam it in hard with the probe, and it goes down, won't go any farther than it goes. And once it's on there nice and good, they're pretty good to go. If you need to get them off, I found a tiny little flat screwdriver works best. You kind of put it underneath it and leverage it off, and it kind of pops them off pretty easily. And there you go. Nice set of microtrains couplers on yourself a pulp log carrier. But get it on Colts. Pulp carrier, wood pulp carrier, log loads, no magnets, everything fits together with friction. Check them out. Get them yourself. Have a good day. See you next time. Handling Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Handling Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song still. Handling Tracks still doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Handling Tracks, it still doesn't have a theme song.